And now, ladies and gentlemen, from the heart of the Inland Empire, right here in sunny Southern California, it's Robert Cardoza Live, where we talk about politics, money, and you. This is the intersection of business and politics. And now here's your host, Robert Cardoza. And I am Robert Cardoza. You're listening to Robert Cardoza Live on the street at the intersection of business and politics. Boy, have we got a fantastic show for you today. You don't want to miss any part of it. We've got, an unusual show. We're going to have today, we're going to do what we always do. We're going to talk about what's in the news, new legislation, the IRS loses, and we'll do our segment, the rest of the story, the tribute to the late, great Paul Harvey and the rest of the story. But we got a special segment today with our own Sean Lefebvre. Sean and I are going to be talking about the human machine, but Sean has a special guest, and his special guest is Sally Fry, and we're going to be talking about domestic violence, and this is going to be a phenomenal part of what's going on here in our show, and so we want to make sure that you're aware of every part of it. Now, also remember that we're going to be talking about what's in the news, and we've encapsulated that so we can talk about 10 most important things that are there, so you can talk to your friends and neighbors, and they'll know that you know what's going on in the world today. But before we do that, I want you to know that at 3:02 p.m. Pacific time, it's currently 77 degrees here in the heart of the Inland Empire in sunny Southern California. Well, it's down from 79 degrees, and it's on its way down to 60 degrees. Looks like the hot summer is finally over, at least I hope it is, and we'll just be moving right along. You know what? Let's see here. We're going to be, let's just get right into the news. That's what we ought to be doing. Here are the 10 things that you need to know for today, Tuesday. Your daily look at late-breaking news, upcoming events, and the stories that will be talked about all day today, and probably tomorrow for that matter. You know, why Mosul is more likely a key military battle. Recapturing the main Islamic State stronghold in northern Iraq could prove a decisive test for Obama's administration's theory that the extremists can be defeated without U.S. ground troops. And Melania breaks her silence. Melania Trump dismisses her husband's sexually aggressive language as boy talk. Well, why Clinton's campaign is expanding into red states. Hillary Clinton advances into states that Democrats haven't won in decades, aiming to help her party win back control of Congress. And where's a U.S. judge called a state's voting law illogical? A federal judge orders Florida to give thousands of voters a chance to make sure that their vote-by-mail ballots are counted. And who apologized for abuse of minorities? I can tell you the president of a group representing tens of thousands of law enforcement officers calls the mistreatment of people of color a dark side of our shared history. And GOP office reopens after a firebombing in North Carolina. Investigators are trying to determine who torched a local Republican Party office by throwing a flammable device through the window. Yeah. By the way, you know, Democrats actually raised over $13,000 to help the Republicans reopen that office. Boy, you talk about cooperation with a shock. That's got to be the one. And WikiLeaks says that Assange's internet link is severed. The group says founder Julian Assange, who is held or holed up at a Ecuadorian embassy in London, has had his web access cut by an unidentified state actor. And rocket launches for space station shipment. It's the first flight of an Antares rocket since one of them exploded on the launch pad 2 years ago. Well, NBC fires Today host Billy Bush. The split with Bush comes 10 days after a tape surfaced from the 2005 showing him and Donald Trump in a vulgar conversation about women. And which college conference won't expand? After 3 months of vetting possible new members, the Big 12 conference decides against expansion. Go figure, right? Absolutely. Well, you know what? Now let's get into the hottest stuff going on in the news. Give you a little more in-depth stuff, so we can give you some details that you can deal with. And right off the top is stop whining. Obama tells Trump, chiding for fraud talk. Stop whining, President Barack Obama rebuked Donald Trump on today, actually, speaking out as seldom before on next month's election and chiding the Republican for sowing suspicion about the integrity of America's presidential vote. Obama also accused Trump of cozying up to Russia's Vladimir Putin to a degree unprecedented in American politics. The president said Trump's intensifying preemptive warnings about voter fraud are unheard of in modern politics. The rhetoric is not based on any evidence, Obama said, but is simply aimed at discrediting the outcome before the first votes are actually counted. You start whining before the game was even over. Obama said at a Rose Garden news conference, if wherever things are going badly for you and you lose your start blaming somebody else, then you don't have what it takes to be in this job. Well, go figure. Sounds like that's kind of the way things are going to be. Let's see. What do we got up here next? Let's try and let's talk about Mosul for a minute. This is really kind of important. Residents are reporting new terrors as Iraqi forces come near. On the early quiet streets of Mosul, fighters from the Islamic State group are killing suspected spies, blocking roads and planting bombs ahead of a showdown with Iraqi forces. Residents who have endured more than 2 years of militant rule describe a city under siege, and they say a new sense of terror has set in since Iraq announced the start of the long-anticipated operation to liberate its second largest city. 3 residents who spoke with the Associated Press by telephone described a ghost town where people only venture out to buy basic goods that are increasingly running low. Wow. You know what? Can't we just have peace on earth? Can't we just have peace on earth? Wouldn't that be nice? Well, a retaken village show that the Islamic State increasingly driven underground. This farming village east of Mosul was turned into a bunker during more than 2 years of Islamic State rule. A network of tunnels and cramped living quarters betrays an extremist group increasingly forced to operate underground by a pushing air campaign and mounting territorial losses. Wrestled from the Islamic State control on the first day of the offensive to retake Iraq's second largest city, Badana offers a glimpse of the battle ahead. Above ground, walls were shredded by airstrikes and artillery. Homes were stained black with soot. The buildings still standing had been looted. Below ground, bags of trash or fresh vegetables lay on the floor of a cooking area, and a bowl of eggs sat beside a crude stove, suggesting the fighters managed to maintain supply lines up until days before their defeat. Well, go figure. They spent their lives in these tunnels, said Tashin Mohammed Sharif, a 35-year-old Kurdish fighter who said the Kurdish forces who drove the militants out of the village also found ammunition inside the tunnel network, which they seized. Good thing. Well, listen, we're going to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to talk about the latest, and that's Russia introduces Aleppo statement to the United Nations. And I'm going to tell you all about that right after these brief messages. Do not go away.
If you want to increase your client base and sales, then consider this, the Relationship Building Network at RBN. Given the current economic conditions and challenges, we all need to work smarter, make smarter decisions, invest our hard-earned dollars where it'll yield the best return for our investment. Many business professionals claim that the most effective networking group in Orange County is RBN. No other networking group or organization can offer what RBN offers. Make every year your best year. Join RBN and start reaping the benefits today. Nearly 3,000 businesses have joined RBN and experienced those benefits. Why join RBN? It's one group. It's one membership. It's no renewals. It's all through Orange County. RBN is a freestyle networking group. No mandatory attendance, no restrictions, no rules, and no penalties. Call them at 949-830-5776 or go to their website at rbninfo.com. That's 949-830-5776. If you've ever dreamed of having your own business to make your life secure, Water's Edge Wineries might be just the ticket. In 2004, their founder, Ken Leinberger, created the first winery franchise in California. It was a new concept with all of the functionality of a traditional winery, but without the vineyards. They purchased high-quality grape must from one of the largest winemaking companies in the world. Then they craft each wine carefully and bottle it right at their location. The winery was built to satisfy consumer demand for wine by the bottle and by the glass, but still kept the element of allowing customers to bottle their own custom vintage. Now, They're opening urban wineries across the United States under the brand Water's Edge Wineries. If you've ever dreamed of owning your own winery, it may be in reach right now through Water's Edge Wineries. Just give them a call at 909-468-9463, extension 700. That's Water's Edge Wineries, 909-468-9463. Have you ever found yourself caught between a rock and a hard place? The law offices of Blomberg, Benson, and Garrett might be just the answer for you. The attorneys of Blomberg, Benson, and Garrett have been serving the Inland Empire since 1989. They're dedicated to the aggressive litigation of civil, criminal, and real estate matters. Over the years, they have recovered tens of millions of dollars for their clients. The firm's practice specializes in litigation of personal injury, accident, slip and fall, real estate, and criminal law cases. The firm provides clients with the care, accuracy, and dedication of experienced attorneys. Blomberg, Benson, and Garrett is located at 10300 4th Street, Suite 150 in Rancho Cucamonga, California. They've been providing the Inland Empire residents with outstanding legal services for over 25 years. They look forward to providing you with aggressive legal representation. Call them at 909-945-5000, where you can talk to a person, not a machine. That's 909-945-5000, the law offices of Blomberg, Benson, and Garrett. And now let's get back to our show where we talk about politics, money, and you.
And I am Robert Cardoza. You're listening to Robert Cardoza live on the street at the intersection of business and politics. And we're talking news. Well, you know what? Let's get to the latest. Russia introduces Aleppo statement at the United Nations. The latest on the developments in the Syrian civil war. Russia has introduced a draft statement to the Security Council calling on countries with influence on Syrian opposition groups to intensify efforts to separate moderate opposition forces from terrorist entities in besieged eastern Aleppo. Russia's United Nations ambassador Vitaly Shurkin said today that the statement, which must now be approved by the 15-member council, also calls on all parties to prevent material and financial support from reaching groups designated as terrorists by the Security Council. Shurkin said that Russia and Syria have halted airstrikes on eastern Aleppo in preparation for an 8-hour humanitarian pause on Thursday. I think that what we're trying to do now is more than just one humanitarian pause. It's a way to try to find a radical turn for the better for the people of eastern Aleppo, Charkin said. Well, you know what? Let's hope so. I guess that's all I can say is let's hope so. You'd like to say more, wouldn't you? But you just can't. Well, a surprisingly high number of first-timers are now buying homes. You know, for years, the United States housing market looked bleak for young couples hoping to buy their first homes, but struggling with high student debt, low pay, and meager down payment savings. But a new survey by the real estate firm Zillow suggests that first-time buyers may be entering the market in greater numbers than industry watchers had actually assumed. Over the past year, the survey found that nearly half of home sales have gone to first-timers. That's a much higher proportion than some other industry estimates had indicated. And it comes as a surprise in part because ownership rates for adults under 34 are at their lowest level since the government began tracking the figures in 1994. Zillow survey results suggest that the trend is shifting and that some of this year's growth in home sales has come from a wave of college-educated couples in their 30s who are the most common first-time buyers. There are I don't know what happened here. Lost my microphone. At least I can't hear my microphone. There's something going on. In any event, let's see if we can't. It looks like you can hear me, so I'm going to just keep right on talking. And we're going to go to the next item in the news. I don't know what is actually going on with this doggone thing, but hopefully we'll get this thing fixed and be able to make it work a lot more properly. Well, Warren builds political capital to what post-elections end and says from a liberal California to conservative Missouri, there are a few places Senator Elizabeth Warren won't go to in this election season. The Massachusetts Democrat is campaigning for Hillary Clinton for Senate Democrat candidates and for liberal policies. And she's banking political capital that she could end up spending in a few ways that make Clinton and the other Democratic leaders uncomfortable. Already, Warren has been delaying or laying down markers for Clinton in public and private to consider activist progressives over Wall Street allies for appointments to key financial positions like Treasury Secretary. The months to come will tell whether Warren serves as ally, antagonist, or both to a new Democratic president and leadership in Congress. So, hopefully that's what all that's going to be doing. And so we'll see as time goes by. Warren, it just seems like there's so much going on that I don't even know what the hell to say. Here's one for you. Class action lawsuit seeks sweeping help for Clinton students. Several families filed a class action lawsuit today against the state of Michigan in the Flint School District, saying that more needs to be done to help students whose academic performance and behavior have worsened because of the city's lead-tainted water. The school system was already struggling before Flint's water supply was contaminated by lead over an 18-month period. The city switched to a new water source, the Flint River, in 2014, but the corrosive water wasn't properly treated, causing lead from old pipes and fixtures to flow through the taps. The 15 families say that the state education department, the Flint district, and the countywide district already are not complying with laws intended to help disabled students, and that the lead crisis is only compounding the problem. You know what? When are they going to fix this? I just don't get it. I don't get it at all. Well, a Chibok leader, 100-plus girls unwilling to leave Boko Haram. You know what? Nigeria's government is negotiating the release of another 83 of the Chibok schoolgirls taken in a mass abduction 2.5 years ago. But more than 100 others appear unwilling to leave the Boko Haram Islamic extremist captors, a community leader said just on Tuesday. The unwilling girls may have been radicalized by Boko Haram or are ashamed to return home because they were forced to marry extremists and have babies, Chairman Pogo Bitrus of the Chibok Development Association told the Associated Press in a telephone interview. Beatrice said that the 21 Chibok girls freed last week in the first negotiated release between Nigeria's government and Boko Haram should be educated abroad because they will probably face stigma in Nigeria. The girls and their parents were reunited Sunday and are expected to meet with Nigeria's President Muhammadu Buhari on Tuesday, or today for that matter, or tomorrow, Beatrice said. Buhari flew to Germany on an official visit the day of the girls' release. So we'll see what actually, transpires or what happens with that. Obviously, things change. They always do. In any event, we're going to take another short break. When we come back, we're going to get on a more of a pleasant note. We're going to talk about the IRS loses. And the first case that the IRS is going to talk about is we're going to say criminal fraud is not necessarily tax fraud. And I'll tell you all about that right after these brief messages. Do not go away.
Isn't it time to shine the spotlight on your expertise? The Interview, starring you. Here's your chance to capture 5 minutes of fame with The Interview. This isn't just any interview. This is your opportunity to showcase your expertise and position yourself as a trusted expert in a one-on-one video interview hosted by Robert Cardoza, host of the nationally syndicated show Robert Cardoza Live and powered by AHA Studios. What is it? A professionally recorded video for your use. Robert Cardoza interviews you on the set where he records his show. Professional interview showcases your expertise and value, shot in a state-of-the-art studio. And what's in it for you? Gain credibility as an expert, earn the trust of your target market, educate in a way that intrigues your audience, gain a powerful marketing tool that offers dozens of uses, website, video sharing sites, social media, email, DVDs, direct mail, lobby video, resumes, profile building, all that kind of stuff. Association with the nationally syndicated celebrity. That's right. And let's talk about AHA Studios. AHA is a strategic marketing firm that leverages the powerful and visual persuasion to help your business create powerful messages that connect with your target market. AHA ventures way beyond strategy, delivering the marketing collateral you need to start driving a new business through your doors. AHA has a full-service, in-house, state-of-the-art production studio to bring your messages to life using video. Discover how to make the interview work for you. Call 949-831-2222. That's 949-831-2222. AHA Image Studios, Incorporated. Dr. Stephen Tidwell, General Family Dentistry in a caring, personalized environment. Here at Dr. Tidwell's office, we are dedicated to helping you keep your teeth healthy. We are a state-of-the-art dental practice that still believes in traditional values, such as excellent customer service and individual attention. We have a special welcoming offer for you for just $39, a complete exam, personal consultation, professional cleaning, and all necessary x-rays. That's a $266 value for $39. Dr. Tidwell has 2 convenient locations and experienced staff to provide you with professional care and personal attention that you deserve. Call today. Don't delay. A great smile another day. Call 909-944-7308. That's 909-944-7308 for Rancho Cucamonga or San Bernardino. Joel Saltzman is Dr. Wireless. He has turned his considerable expertise into consumer credit risk and wireless security into a highly specialized independent web-based consulting enterprise targeting consumer credit risk analysis and wireless transactional security and monitoring. He works as a wireless analyst, veteran independent agent, and consumer liaison for most wireless telecom carriers and equipment manufacturers. For more than 20 years, corporate and private clients and media audiences have counted on his unvarnished advice while weighing the technology, performance, and cost differences between Sprint, Nextel, AT&T, Verizon, and T-Mobile. Joel specializes in setting up mobile wireless hotspots to be used for disaster preparedness, business continuity, and mobile wireless merchant processing solutions. Call Dr. Wireless at 310-400-4900 or go to his webpage at drwireless.com. Again, call 310-400-4900 or his webpage at drwireless.com. You'll be glad you did. And now, back to our show.
The story you are about to see is true. The names have been changed to protect the innocent.
Oh, yeah, here we are, my favorite part of the show, the IRS loses. And boy, have we got a magnificent show for you today. There's some good things that are going to be going on. The first case that we're going to talk about, though, is the IRS loses. A criminal fraud is not necessarily tax fraud. So here's the deal. You know, an IRS employee who was a compulsive gambler deceived friends into giving him more than $75,000 by saying that he could invest their money for a guaranteed 30% return, using fake investment statements to convince them of his fact. Now, he gambled the money away and ultimately pleaded guilty to criminal fraud. The IRS then assessed tax fraud penalties against him for not reporting the $75,000 as income, saying that as an IRS employee, he surely knew that it was taxable to him. So he protested, went to court. This is what the judge said. Tax fraud requires active steps to conceal income from the IRS or otherwise mislead it. Merely underreporting income, as was the case here, is not tax fraud. So the penalties are lifted. And just so you'll know, tax fraud penalties are 50% of the tax owed. So on that $75,000, be a big chunk of dough. How about this? The IRS loses. A wife escapes $2.8 million of a joint return taxes. Ronald Campbell handled the family finances for his wife Phyllis and aggressively traded commodities, including through accounts that he opened in her name. Now, these made up to about $3 million 1 year in profit, but then the markets turned against Ronald, and an illegal tax shelter investment that he made created a $2.8 million tax bill on their joint return. So Phyllis then objected that she had never even seen the account statements mailed to her, and this is what the court said. Imposing a tax liability of more than $2.8 million as a result of a disallowed transaction of which the petitioner had no actual or constructive knowledge would be extremely inequitable. So she escapes the tax. And that's the way it ought to be. Well, here's another case the IRS lost. They cannot prove the value of a gift made 26 years ago. The IRS tried to impose gift tax on shares in a private company that were given to Gordon Davenport by his Aunt Bernie in 1980. Now, it could do so because no gift tax was paid at the time, and the lack of the gift tax return kept the normal 3-year statute of limitations from running. But they went to court. This is what the judge said. The IRS could not prove the value of the shares back in 1980. Stock transactions made after 1980 were inadmissible as to their 1980 value. And a recently found 1979 stipulation of share value made to settle another family member's estate tax case could, under state law, be used only in that case, not in this one decades later. So, the IRS case, you got it, was dismissed. Well, you've heard me talk about being a fly on the wall when the IRS is doing stuff. That's where we're at right now with this segment we call Inside the IRS, very much like, the Twilight Zone. Well, these are not actual tax court cases, but these are things that if you know about them, you can use them to your advantage. You know, the first item up is there's a refund opportunity out there. There's an amended return opportunity to get a refund of tax paid on awards for damages for personal non-physical injuries. Now, a recent decision in the United States Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia Circuit held that the damages received for emotional stress or distress and injury to personal reputation are not subject to income tax, and that Section 104A-2 of the tax code, which makes these damages taxable, is unconstitutional. Now, money damages received for loss of earnings or punitive damages are still going to be taxable, so you need to be careful. The IRS is expected to appeal this case, but amended tax returns should be filed to protect your right to receive a refund just in case. Now, we're going to go, let's do one more. You know, private collection agencies, they're using them now. Now that the IRS has outsourced a portion of its collection work, a private debt collector may contact you. Now, they have some limits, and these collection agencies can only negotiate installment payment agreements of up to $25,000 and out 36 months. Now, here's the good news. A private collection agency cannot issue a summons for financial information and cannot make third-party contacts with your bank or employer or your neighbors, as an example. So here's a strategy for you. You may have an easier time getting an agreement, agreeable installment plan with a private collection agency, since they're paid a commission on anything that they collect, whereas the typical IRS collection employee has no financial incentive to let you pay off your liability over time. But take note, if you can't or won't accept an agreement with the private agency, your case gets sent back to the IRS, which will then pursue the collection in the normal manner. And I want you to know, you don't want that to happen. That part is guaranteed. Now, we're going to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to be with our own Sean LaFave in the Geared for Wellness Corner, and you're not going to want to miss it. He's got a special guest, Sally Fry, and we're going to be talking to Sean about domestic violence with his guest today. And so we'll be right back after these commercial words with our own Sean LaFave in the Geared for Wellness Corner.
If you want to increase your client base and sales, then consider this, the Relationship Building Network at RBN. Given the current economic conditions and challenges, we all need to work smarter, make smarter decisions, invest our hard-earned dollars where it'll yield the best return for our investment. Many business professionals claim that the most effective networking group in Orange County is RBN. No other networking group or organization can offer what RBN offers. Make every year your best year. Join RBN and start reaping the benefits today. Nearly 3,000 businesses have joined RBN and experienced those benefits. Why join RBN? It's one group. It's one membership. It's no renewals. It's all through Orange County. RBN is a freestyle networking group. No mandatory attendance, no restrictions, no rules, and no penalties. Call them at 949-830-5776 or go to their website at rbninfo.com. That's 949-830-5776. If you've ever dreamed of having your own business to make your life secure, you know Water's Edge Wineries might be just the ticket. In 2004, their founder, Ken Lineberger, created the first winery franchise in California. It was a new concept with all of the functionality of a traditional winery, but without the vineyards. They purchase high-quality grape must from one of the largest winemaking companies in the world. Then they craft each wine carefully and bottle it right at their location. The winery was built to satisfy consumer demand for wine by the bottle and by the glass, but still kept the element of allowing customers to bottle their own custom vintage. Now, they're opening urban wineries across the United States under the brand Water's Edge Wineries. If you've ever dreamed of owning your own winery, it may be in reach right now through Water's Edge Wineries. Just give them a call at 909-468-9463, extension 700. That's Water's Edge Wineries, 909-468-9463. Have you ever found yourself caught between a rock and a hard place? The law offices of Blomberg, Benson, and Garrett might be just the answer for you. The attorneys of Blomberg, Benson, and Garrett have been serving the Inland Empire since 1989. They're dedicated to the aggressive litigation of civil, criminal, and real estate matters. Over the years, they have recovered tens of millions of dollars for their clients. The firm's practice specializes in litigation of personal injury, accident, slip and fall, real estate, and criminal law cases. The firm provides clients with the care, accuracy, and dedication of experienced attorneys. Blomberg, Benson, and Garrett is located at 10300 4th Street, Suite 150 in Rancho Cucamonga, California. They've been providing the Inland Empire residents with outstanding legal services for over 25 years. They look forward to providing you with aggressive legal representation. Call them at 909-945-5000, where you can talk to a person, not a machine. That's 909-945-5000, the law offices of Blomberg, Benson, and Garrett. And now let's get back to our show where we talk about politics, money, and you. And now, ladies and gentlemen, coming to you from his personal meditation lounge in Orange County, California, a professional dedicated to conquering many chronic conditions from autism to weight loss and everything in between. The nationally recognized wellness coach, consultant, and lecturer, Sean Lefebvre, in his Geared for Wellness Corner.
And I am Robert Cardoza. You're listening to Robert Cardoza live on the street at the intersection of business and politics. We're at 3:32 p.m. Pacific time. It's currently 77 degrees here in the heart of the Inland Empire in sunny Southern California. That's the high for today. It's on its way down to 58 degrees. But you know what? If you're listening to us on our globally syndicated network and you're in Lisbon, Portugal, it's 66 degrees and it's cleared. If you're really lucky and you live in Wichita, Kansas, well, it's 76 degrees, partly cloudy and humid as hell. You know what? Hey, Sean, aren't you glad that you're in Irvine?
I am glad that I am in Newport Beach, actually, right now. So, yes. It's like, I don't know. It's actually, it's supposed to be really hot tomorrow. It's supposed to be 90 degrees here. But right now, I think it's like close to 80 and it's sunny and it's not humid, so I'm good.
Yeah, boy, it's absolutely beautiful. Not everybody can be as lucky as us, though, huh?
But that's for darn sure.
Well, you know what? Now you've got a special lady that's going to be joining us today, and you need to do a proper introduction with her background because we're going to be talking about a really, really important subject today, and that's domestic violence that most men don't really understand.
Right. And, and most men don't understand. And I think, you've got a handful of men who are prone towards domestic violence. And, of course, they have been in relationships with multiple women. So more women have been a part of a relationship like that than men have, for sure. Because the men are, they kind of spread it out amongst the several women. And so, but the men like you and me who have not been in a relationship, it's really hard for us to understand. And we ask questions that I'm sure are frustrating at times. But, so this is going to be a good learning time, I think, for everybody. But this month is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. I said it Thursday, I said it wrong, but it is Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And you had asked a question that prompted me to bring Sally on the show with us to address this very issue. And so Sally is well, let me start with her credentials. She's in Wichita, Kansas. She has her bachelor's degree from the Wichita State University, and that is in psychology. And she has her master's degree in marriage and family therapy. She worked at the Kansas Children's Service League for 13 years, where she was the assistant director. And she worked with all kinds of welfare programs and so on. I won't get into all the details just for time's sake. Starting in 2006, she became the director for the Kansas Department of Corrections at the Sedgwick County Reentry facility. So basically, for about the southern half of Kansas, she is responsible for everyone that's on parole for the state program. So she manages the parole officers and the parole officer supervisor. So there's only, in the whole Department of Corrections for her system, there's only one person above her in the state of Kansas. And so she got, I think that was in 2010 when she actually became the director of where she is now. But I won't go on. She's got quite the credentials. She's got quite a career, and she's an amazing person with a great heart. Matter of fact, she does carry a badge, and so my question to her when I talk to her, I go, "Did you get to shoot anybody today?" And every time I ask the question, she always answers it as if I had never asked it before. And she says, "No, Sean, I'm not allowed to shoot people," and like as if I've never asked the question, 100 times before that. So she's got a very good patience and temperament as well. But without further ado, as they say, Sally Fry is with us today. Sally, how are you?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Hey, Sally, it's great to have you on the air today. When Sean said he was going to bring you on, I just really got excited because there are so many things about domestic violence that us men just don't really understand.
It's not only men; it's a lot of people just in general don't really understand it. So you're in good company. It's all right.
Well, I've never been able to understand why any woman would endure domestic violence and not get the heck out of the house. And hopefully you're going to explain that to us. It's got to be a security issue.
Yeah, that's the question that prompted this Sally being on. So Sally, go ahead and answer that question, and then we'll just kind of let things flow from there wherever they go.
Okay. Well, let me first ask the question. That's a very common question, and the question that we should be asking is why are men, and I'm going to clarify that when we talk about domestic violence, and when I talk about domestic violence, I'm primarily going to be using him or he pronouns because the overwhelming majority of violence is perpetrated by men, and is perpetrated by men against women primarily. And so our question really should be is why are men violent against women, as opposed to why doesn't she leave? But we're human, we don't get it, and so we need to understand that this is truly so complex. And I would ask you if how easy would it be for you to decide today I need to leave, and how easy that would be just to do that tomorrow.
Well, easy would that be? If I had some thug breaking my bones and blacking my eyes and bloodying my nose and threatening my children, it would be real easy. But that I'm an individual, I don't understand that. Never have understood it. I was brought up in a different way, where men held women on a pedestal and revered them.
Sure, and that's awesome. But could you do it and think that you could get out safely? You know what? I don't understand how you couldn't. Don't you just have to call the police and they protect you? Oh boy. Okay. So not exactly. The laws are different in every state, and law enforcement is different in every state. And so a lot of what will happen is if there's an altercation, we say there's an altercation, law enforcement comes out. Most states have the law where if they see bruises, if they see marks on one person, there's a mandatory arrest. Sometimes they take them both in because maybe one might have started it, but then they were both mutually fighting, defending, whatever, and both people have marks on them, and so both people may be going to jail. Most states have it's a 72-hour protection from abuse. They could be bonded out, and then they may be in jail for a few hours. And so if the woman is left, she has a few hours. She may be hurt and trying to figure out, okay, how do I leave? Where do I go? How do I make sure? How do I get my kids safe? How do I get where exactly am I going? There's not enough domestic violence shelters to place all of the domestic violence victims that there are. Not all of them take children. I have a whole lot of things that I need to consider.
Sally,
if I go to...
But Sally, with today's technology, and assuming that the batterer goes to work every day at some point, wouldn't it just be a matter of either calling the police and asking for help and shelter, or going on the internet and doing a search, or planning in advance? Since it's already, if it happened once, it's going to happen again, right? And planning in advance what your alternatives are.
Okay, so let's just talk about the nature of how this evolves. Mm-hmm. Is that a lot of, this is a relationship, and it doesn't start with violence typically. That's not normally how these relationships start. Mm. They start with just like any relationship might start. There's courting, there's flirting, it progresses. They're nice, they're charming, they're awesome to you. And then, they may even be jealous, and you find that kind of attractive. It's like, oh, he thinks enough about me that his jealousy, he's jealous of when I look at other men or these things like this. And so, that's how it starts. And it just progressively gets worse and worse and worse. And there's so many things tied up into this that not every woman, but you talked about being able to go on the internet. Well, that's if he's allowed her to have access to her phone, and that when she gets home, or when he gets home from work, that he isn't going to check her phone or the computer, or that he doesn't have software on the computer to actually check who she's emailed, or who she's texted, or where she's gone, or had her GPS turned on her phone or in her car, and that he knows her every single move that she's doing. And that when he gets home...
So do battered women actually become almost incarcerated in their home? They don't get to associate with their neighbors or friends? They have no other alternatives?
Pretty much, and that's one of the pieces is isolation, is because a lot of these batterers, I'll just use isolation as one of the reasons why it's very difficult for these women to leave. Isolation is one reason that the perpetrator has spent days, months, weeks, years of convincing her why it's a good idea to not hang out with her friends anymore, her family anymore, that they don't know us, they don't understand us, baby. They just, they don't get us, they don't see how much we're in love, they don't get us, they're just destructive to our relationship. We need to cut off all ties to all these people. And so it's and that sounds good to her. And it's like, let's just start afresh. Let's move to a whole nother town. Let's move across the country. Let's move her away from her family and her friends to where she has nothing, or she has no one. And
this is before the battering actually begins. Is that right?
Potentially, yes. It could have been going on, but when he says that he doesn't know how it happened, he doesn't know, he was drunk, he's so sorry, he just lost control there, but it's not going to happen again. She loves him. She wants to believe that that's true, and that he won't do it again.
Sally, is this an illness? Is it a mental incapacity, or is it just a thug that doesn't respect women?
This is a power and control issue. It is not what they have found in research is that folks men in particular that batter women or their intimate partners, that they It's not about mental illness. It doesn't show any more in people that batter than it does in the general public. So it's not a mental illness. It truly is about the need to have control and the need to have power. And that's when it's truly a myth when you think about it being about anger control. And in fact, when we're trying to treat people that are abusive in these relationships, doing quote unquote anger management is actually counterindicated. You really need to get at the reasons why they batter, why they have that control, and show them how destructive and address those particular issues. That it's about their need and to be in control and have power over this person.
So, Sally, how do they actually eventually get to you? Does a court order some kind of therapy for them to attend? Or, would a therapist actually say, hey, you need to get away from this person and help them do that? Or do you actually try to salvage the marriage thinking that the guy can be, I don't know what the word I want to use is, brought back to normal? How do they get back to you?
That's a good question. And there's some different. I'm going to ask talk about how they might get into treatment. Uh-huh. And let me say, first of all, is that if there's any women out there listening that are in any kind of a relationship like this, please don't go to marital counseling or couples counseling, because a couples counselor, the whole idea of couples counseling is that both parties have equal power in this relationship, and there can be give and take. There cannot be give and take in a violent relationship. There just can't be. She's already at a disadvantage because she's already lacks the power in the relationship.
So people that actually go to marriage counseling are going to the wrong place.
They're going to the wrong place. He needs to get treatment for how he needs to, he needs to learn how to behave in a relationship and what that looks like. And that is, there's a lot of batters intervention, different types of models across the country. It's not anger management, it's batters intervention.
Does it work?
And what's that?
Does it work?
Does it work?
Mm-hmm.
There's research that's showing some promise. What we do know is that it's a long process.
So it doesn't work.
And that the ones that are showing some promise are at least 6 months long. That the guy needs to be in weekly treatment 6 months long at least. And there's some jurisdictions that require a year of treatment.
And in the meantime, the entire family is in danger. This guy can't just pop off any time.
Potentially, yes. And the thing to understand about domestic violence is not all of it is about the violence. A lot of it is about the control and how I mentioned that, she has to turn over her cell phone at the end of the day when he gets home from work, or, she may be so isolated. He may have, control of the checkbook and of the finances, and she gets a quote unquote allowance. And that allowance may be for all of the kids and her, he may have said, you need to stay home with the kids, and not really allowed her to have a job. So even if she wants to leave, she has no means by which to leave. And leaving, and potentially the other thing that happens is that the batters like to kind of talk about to family and friends how she's crazy, to try to hide the abuse. Mm-hmm. But it's, it is a controlling. They use the kids. They use, they use a lot of different tactics to keep them in quote unquote control. And a lot of it doesn't have anything to do with violence. So it's controlling the monies, it's controlling the kids. Yeah.
Right. That was going to be my question. So when we're talking about this kind of domestic violence, and in the case of, let's just say control and not battering, they're not just trying to control the wife in an exorbitant way. They're trying to control the kids, the entire family. They need to be king on the hill, right?
Certainly, and it is a need to be in control, and in a lot of domestic violence relationships, there's also child abuse. Not in all of them, but in a lot of them. And the effects of the children are just horrendous because they, first of all, they see the role model of, this is what it's like to be a man and this is what it's like to be a woman. And so, if you see the conflict resolution of laying hands on each other, then that's how the children learn. There's also the issue of, that control that then boys learn that they have to be controlling and that's, so there's just all sorts of horrible messages. Plus, they might use the kids against them. Said, if you leave, you're never going to get custody of the kids. Everybody knows you're crazy.
So it's threats.
Everybody knows that, and you're a horrible mother and it's a brainwashing. It truly is. It started out as a loving relationship and it has just evolved into almost a brainwashing to where she believes what he's telling her.
So, Sally, are there statistics that show the percentage of domestic violence that includes physical harm as opposed to that's strictly control?
Most of them at some point include control. To be quite honest, at some point, he may or may not have to be violent because he has gotten her so scared and that, the threat of abuse is as tormenting as the abuse itself.
Mm.
So
the problem with statistics is it's so underreported that it's really hard to get a feel for, that would be a really difficult stat to find.
So is it underreported?
Go ahead, John.
Is it underreported because of fear from the recipient, or underreported because it's really not a violent situation? It's more of a control situation.
It's underreported for a lot of different ways. There's societal. The thing to understand is this occurs in every socioeconomic class. Mm-hmm. It occurs in rich to the poor, and that's the thing that people don't understand. Is they think of this as in more of a poverty-stricken place, but that's not the case. This is all socioeconomic levels, and so if a wife of a affluent politician or police officer or doctor were to report is that this person is abusing her in some way, she may or may not feel like she's going to be believed. Mm. And he may be telling all of his colleagues and people, yeah, my wife's bipolar, my wife's crazy. And, if she calls you and tells you that, that I hate her, just know she's crazy. And so he's actually setting the field with all of the people.
Wow.
Potentially.
Hey, Sean, I wanted to ask you a question. How does it feel? How does it feel?
Can you hear me?
Hey, yeah, I can hear you. Hey, listen,
how does it?
I feel it, Robert. I feel like I'm you right now. Like no one's listening to me.
Sean, what I want to ask you is how does it feel not to be able to get a word edgewise in and hoping that somebody will take a breath?
Dude, it's horrible. Like, is this how you feel when we're on the radio? Because this is terrible.
You never breathe while you're on the air. I wanted you to get a feeling of how that is. Sally's talking about control issues. You've been controlling this show since you've been on it.
If I was a control freak, I would have hung up by now. You'd be done. No, I'm not a control freak. I'm like, all right, that's fine. I'll get my question in eventually, probably during the commercial. Okay, so I'm going to ask my question now that I've been dying to ask. And actually, as you've been talking, I've been picking up on more points that have really kind of come back to where the brunt of my question. You talk about intervention, and sometimes 6 months to a year. You talk about like he says, honey, let's move away, let's go somewhere else where nobody knows us, we're gonna start over fresh. There's all these different things that are going on. The way he isolates her, and I look at if you look at, and I know Sally, you and I have actually had this particular conversation. If you look at the Amish community, they are very good at taking care of their own selves, they police themselves really well. And if a man in the Amish community is abusing his wife, the men actually come to him and they say, hey, what's going on? Why is this happening? It needs to stop. Okay. No, there's no two ways about it. The men intervene. And then the second time they intervene, if they have to do it again, they actually drag him out behind the barn and beat the hell out of him And they keep doing that until he finally gets to the point that, you don't treat women like this. And so what the difference between the Amish community and the rest of the United States is they have, and I've been saying this for a long time, in the United States, we've lost this sense of community, this connectedness with those surrounding us. Like, Robert, I was at your house not too long ago, and I know you're fairly new there, but I wonder how many neighbors you know. I only know a couple of my neighbors, and I have a ton of them around me, and I think this sense of community is lost. And so my question is, how much of this problem that we see with men being able to get away with this and women being afraid to approach anyone because no one's going to believe them and intervention takes so long, how much of that is really a cultural, is very systemic? Because we're not going to change. People are always going to have abuse problems. People are always going to have control problems. We're not going to change human nature. But how much of this is cultural? Like, do we see this in other cultures? Does this happen in Africa? And does this happen in India? Does this happen in other cultures that aren't so spread out, where they don't deal with urban sprawl, they don't deal with being on Facebook all the time and being able to just, because I know even on the northeast, if you move away for a far way away, that's like the family thinks it's the end of the world because you're so far away. So some cultures, European especially, you just don't move that far away, so you're always around the same people for your whole life, and so there's this connectedness, and you can see when there's something wrong. Something's wrong. The woman's not behaving right. The man's not behaving right. We need to intervene as a community. So how much of this and I may be like bringing up something maybe you haven't researched, how much of this do you think is a cultural problem with the United States and the way that we've developed our society?
And Sally is going to answer that question right after these brief messages, because we got to pay the bills. We'll be right back with Sally Fry and Sean LaFave in the Geared for Wellness Corner after these brief messages. Don't go away.
If you want to increase your client base and sales, then consider this, the Relationship Building Network at RBN. Given the current economic conditions and challenges, we all need to work smarter, make smarter decisions, invest our hard-earned dollars where it'll yield the best return for our investment. Many business professionals claim that the most effective networking group in Orange County is RBN. No other networking group or organization can offer what RBN offers. Make every year your best year. Join RBN and start reaping the benefits today. Nearly 3,000 businesses have joined RBN and experienced those benefits. Why join RBN? It's one group. It's one membership. It's no renewals. It's all through Orange County. RBN is a freestyle networking group. No mandatory attendance, no restrictions, no rules, and no penalties. Call them at 949-830-5776 or go to their website at rbninfo.com. That's 949-830-5776. If you've ever dreamed of having your own business to make your life secure, Water's Edge Wineries might be just the ticket. In 2004, their founder, Ken Lineberger, created the first winery franchise in California. It was a new concept with all of the functionality of a traditional winery, but without the vineyards. They purchased high-quality grape must from one of the largest winemaking companies in the world. Then they craft each wine carefully and bottle it right at their location. The winery was built to satisfy consumer demand for wine by the bottle and by the glass, but still kept the element of allowing customers to bottle their own custom vintage. Now, they're opening urban wineries across the United States under the brand Water's Edge Wineries. If you've ever dreamed of owning your own winery, it may be in reach right now through Water's Edge Wineries. Just give them a call at 909-468-9463, extension 700. That's Water's Edge Wineries, 909-468-9463. Have you ever found yourself caught between a rock and a hard place? The law offices of Blomberg, Benson, and Garrett might be just the answer for you. The attorneys of Blomberg, Benson, and Garrett have been serving the Inland Empire since 1989. They're dedicated to the aggressive litigation of civil, criminal, and real estate matters. Over the years, they have recovered tens of millions of dollars for their clients. The firm's practice specializes in litigation of personal injury, accident, slip and fall, real estate, and criminal law cases. The firm provides clients with the care, accuracy, and dedication of experienced attorneys. Blomberg, Benson, and Garrett is located at 10300 4th Street, Suite 150 in Rancho Cucamonga, California. They've been providing the Inland Empire residents with outstanding legal services for over 25 years. They look forward to providing you with aggressive legal representation. Call them at 909-945-5000, where you can talk to a person, not a machine. That's 909-945-5000, the law offices of Blomberg, Benson, and Garrett. And now let's get back to our show where we talk about politics, money, and you.
Robert Cardoza. You're listening to Robert Cardoza live on the street at the intersection of business and politics. We're at 4 p.m. Pacific time. It's currently 77 degrees here in the heart of the Inland Empire in sunny Southern California. It's on its way down to 59 degrees. And if you're listening to us on our globally syndicated network and you're in New York City, well, it's 75 degrees and it's clear. And if you're in Paris, France, 48 degrees and it's still clear. But I'll tell you something that's not clear, and that is the cause of domestic abuse. And we're finding all about it from Sally Fry, our guest of our own, Sean Lefebvre, in his Geared for Wellness Corner. Sean, you're on the mic.
Just don't ask me to repeat that question that I asked you before the break.
God forbid you take up all the time we got left.
Yeah, I know. I'm going to sum it up. So, Sally, is this problem cultural to the United States? Is this something that we've really, because of our disconnectedness, that we created a culture that actually allows men to get away with this? And is this a problem in other cultures that you're aware of? And if you not studied other cultures, that's cool. I know I've never even asked you this question, so I'm kind of curious how much of it is cultural, and how much of it is just really systemic and worldwide, and there's, very little can be done about it.
I'm not completely positive, but I do know about a few cultures. Interestingly enough, if let's just take the Hispanic culture, you think of that as, you have that machismo. And I just saw something as I was researching that actually it occurs less in Hispanic families than it does in...
I believe that. As much, of course, coming from Southern California, we're exposed to a very... As a matter of fact, the Latino community in Southern California, maybe in the entire state, but certainly in Southern California, is the majority. We white people here in California are no longer in the majority. I believe it is Latinos. So, and you do see the Latinos; they're definitely more family oriented, and I think they stick together, within their community, and I think they do police each other. So I can see why that would make sense to me that it's less in Latin communities.
I think the other thing you need to keep in mind, even if we think about religion and think about people's values and what the value of marriage is, and actually how women are viewed in the different cultures. And, in some cultures, there's still women are viewed as property. And so they will be treated as such.
Wait a minute, Sally. Whoa, Sally. You mean they're not? It cost me. I paid $2 for my marriage license. I didn't buy her lock, stock, and barrel.
Well, you put her on a pedestal. I've been listening to your show for a while, and so
I tell everybody, Sally. I tell everybody she hates me or she'd have left me a long time ago. But that's not. I
was just about to say you've been paying the price for a long time.
Oh
so.
Yeah, I tell everybody if my wife was ever to leave, I'd pack my bags and go with her.
And I do think that even in some, if you want to talk, even the Christian faith and, the value of marriage and even, in some of these relationships, some of these violent or abusive relationships, religion is used as a reason why they won't leave, is that till death do us part. And you will obey your spouse, and so when he says to her, if you wouldn't do this, then I wouldn't have to beat you. And she believes, but the problem is then the rule changes. And she didn't do that anymore, but then, now he's changed the rule on her, and now she's not supposed to do this. And so it's in some of these relationships, it is pretty much a damned if you do and damned if you don't. And honestly, the time that a woman is more likely to be hurt or be killed is when she is leaving. And so for us to say, why doesn't she just leave? Well, she may be deciding that this is the safest place for her to be. And the other thing is if you can imagine, you may have seen, I mentioned that child abuse occurs. So family courts are more likely, this is a sad statistic, family courts are more likely to grant, if domestic violence is brought up, then they're most likely going to be. I'm trying to think how to say this. Basically, it's backwards than what you think. If you think that if you say that it's domestic violence, that you're going to get more custody or sole custody of your children, you're wrong. Family courts haven't gotten the message of all of this, and it's kind of, it's a family matter. There's that stigma out there as well, and you're better off not mentioning violence, not mentioning domestic violence in a court when you're trying to determine custody than you are if you do. And that's
now when you say that, is that if it's mentioned but not proven? What if it's actually been proven that there is a domestic violence issue? We would all assume. I can see if it's been mentioned, but they're going, okay, maybe she's just trying to play the system, and we don't know. We don't have any proof of it. I can see in that case. But if the attorneys come out and say, look, here's the documentation, here's where she's been abused, here's where the children have been abused, here's where the police reports are, and he's clearly the one at fault. Even in that case, are you saying that it goes in the wrong direction?
It's going to be case by case. I think that the issue here is not making the connection between domestic violence and child abuse. That you if you just say that he's being violent, well, she might have deserved it.
Yeah, he doesn't mind battering. He doesn't mind battering her, but he'd never hurt his kids, right?
Right, exactly. So he deserves to have to see his kids. He deserves to have joint custody of his kids. Exactly.
Well, I got to tell you, most of the guys that I hang around with or hung around with, I'm old now, but it just wouldn't stop me. If I witnessed that kind of a thing, I can guarantee you I'd be going across the street and that fellow would just woe the day that he ever did that.
Mm-hmm.
And most of the guys I know feel that way. They just, what?
Right.
We're
not talking about the majority of men here. We are not talking about the majority of men.
What percentage of men are prone towards getting in this type of relationship and really being that type of manipulative, controlling, abusive person?
I tried to find that, and again, we have the problem of the underreporting. I've seen anywhere between 20 to 40%. 15% to 40%. It's so hard to tell. You mentioned at the beginning of this,
Sally,
all men.
Of all men?
Yeah.
40% of all men?
Well,
wow.
It's hard. Well, even 20% is huge when you think about it.
Oh, yeah.
But I was thinking when I was looking at it, it was thinking 10 to 15, and looked into more of it, and it was really leaning more towards the 20. Of course, these are hard stats to show because of the underreport, and yeah.
Wow.
And so much of domestic violence isn't violent, and so much of domestic violence isn't. There's still maybe, power and control, and where she's complete, but he doesn't have to hit her anymore.
But now
he may have hit her once.
And we do have to make the point that not all domestic violence is caused by the male in the house. Sometimes it's the female, right?
It's when you see females being violent, and there's different. A lot of time, most of the time, that's in same-sex relationships. When you see females committing violence, or they've been, subject to such control that they lash out, and then they become violent. There is the female's use of violence is really, they end up in prison because they finally got tired of it and killed him. That's a lot of the females that we have in our prison system is because they finally got fed up with their batter and they killed them. But in terms of do women hit men? Are women violent with men? Certainly. Men aren't going to necessarily report that. And I would argue that if a 5'2" female is beating on a 6' male, that his fear level is probably not the same if the situation were reversed.
Oh, I agree with that.
And so that use of terrorism is really what it feels like. and what it looks like. And so you have an imbalance of power a lot of times just simply by size, when you're talking about men and women in relationships. And utilizing that fear, and that dominance is one of the factors. But yes, certainly women can be violent. And I will, this is one of Sean and I's, conversations that we have, is that certainly I don't believe anybody should lay a hand on anybody.
Oh, right, I agree.
Male or female or indifferent. I don't think a woman should slap a man for any reason. I don't think there's any point in it. If you can't use your words, what's the point? You need to learn how to use your words. Let's go back to kindergarten.
Well, yeah, you can't very well expect a man not to defend himself if you're pummeling him.
Right.
And the problem is just exactly what you said. The guy's 200 pounds, 6 feet tall, and if he hits you, even if he holds back, it's going to hurt you.
Yeah, right.
That's bad stuff. What percentage of these domestic violence situations, whether they be actual physical harm or just mental oppression, what percentage of these actually get solved as opposed to breaking up the family?
That I don't know. And there's some people in this field that believe that it is untreatable. Mm. I don't personally believe that. I believe that all people can change. I believe that, you can learn new ways of treating people. You can learn to control your control issues, if you will. I truly believe that. I wouldn't be in the field that I am if I didn't believe that people can change. So, but there are some people that do feel that, once a batterer, always a batterer. I don't agree with that.
Well, in your experience, then, what percentage of success? I'm not talking about now universally for batterers, but in your experience, what percentage of satisfactory outcomes have you actually witnessed?
I've been on both sides of this because right now, when in the beginning of my career, I was working with a lot of the women, and the biggest thing that we were looking at is just trying to get them safe, and whatever safe looked like for them. And now in this half of my career, I'm working primarily with the men, and in our programs here in Canada, and when we're talking the ones that we're working with the worst of the worst. We're working with the men that actually got actually had a crime committed and actually served time. That is so rare. Right. That a man is actually going to serve some time for this crime.
Now, for this crime, what is the penalty if a judge says, "Hey, I'm finding you guilty of this. I'm going to incarcerate you for this"? What is the time that somebody would spend average for something like this?
Oh,
it depends on the damage that was done.
Depends on the damage, because it could be anywhere between. I mean, you could try for attempted murder. You could plea it down to ag battery. Mm-hmm. It depends on if weapons were used. Depends on all sorts of dynamics. But most of the time, DV battery actually has less crime or less time primarily than aggravated battery.
Mm-hmm.
What was the first one you said? DV? What is that?
Domestic violence battery. So it's basically, and the other thing is, in the laws, that includes brother, sister, mother, father. So if a kid starts pummeling on their parent or vice versa, that's still domestic violence if they're living in the same household. But what I'm talking about is intimate partner violence.
Right.
So you're in some sort of relationship, boyfriend, girlfriend, ex-boyfriend, girlfriend, that type of a relationship.
So, Sally, the majority of these cases that we're actually referring to today, they come out as a result of the parole department requiring some kind of therapy.
It's not necessarily the parole department. What this is, it takes. This is why this crime is so hard, is because it takes so much damage to be done before the batterer is actually going to get any length of time in any kind of jail cell, because the abuse may have gone on. This is the other dynamic that happens. The police get there. He's calm. She's off her rocker crazy because he just beat the crap out of her. Yeah. And so the police is walking into the situation and sees this woman here, and he's like, see how she is. I just, there's no controlling her. She's crazy. What am I supposed to do with this? And then, it may get sorted out, and they may see that she has a black eye, and they may take him to jail. And then it comes time for them to go to court on this case. He said it's never going to happen again. Or he said, if you show up in court, you're really going to get it. If you show up in court, you'll never see your kids again. If you show up in court, your pet is dead, your mom is dead, your sister's dead. I mean, any number of threats, and so they don't show up in court.
So on that note, you talk about, like, there's all these threats, and of course, there's a fear that's driven in that maybe this might come to fruition.
Right.
How many of these? Because when we think of domestic violence, we think of course, the vast majority of people think of physical abuse. Someone's been slapped, someone's been punched, kicked, whatever the case might be. How much of would you do to kind of describe domestic violence? What percentage of it would be considered mostly emotional, mental, verbal abuse? That and I know that legally is probably really hard to convict and hard to even find out. Really, yeah. So, but in your just kind of total opinion, how prevalent do you believe that is compared to actual physical? Does one lead to the other? Can there be where it's just strictly verbal, mental, emotional abuse without the physical? Like, I know that this is probably just an opinion more than anything, but what do you think is the percentage and separations of those two, and do they always go hand in hand?
I would say that they always go hand in hand. I mean, I think that there are some times that that the violence might have only happened once, but the threats are still there, and the fear is still there.
That one act of violence was enough.
It was enough.
Yeah.
Right. And I mean, and the emotional abuse, absolutely, that's there, and that's part of the kind of intimidation, and that's kind of the grooming and grooming them to isolation and pulling them away from their family and friends, and even calling them names and any kind of, well, you're a horrible mother, you'd never get custody of these kids because you're a horrible mother, and you're, and just calling them names, and after this beatdown, this verbal, emotional beatdown, they start to believe it. And they believe that they've caused it. They've caused this abuse themselves because that's what they've been told, and that's how it's been twisted. And her own words are used against her, and it is truly a brainwashing process that goes from the beginning to the end.
And we're talking to Sally Fry and Sean LaFave. We're talking about domestic violence.
Commercial.
And I don't know if that's a good idea or a bad idea, but we got to do it right now. We'll be right back after these brief messages. We're talking about probably one of the most important subjects that we've talked about all year, and that's domestic violence. And it doesn't look like there's an answer to this. We'll be right back. Don't go away.
Isn't it time to shine the spotlight on your expertise? The Interview, starring you. Here's your chance to capture 5 minutes of fame with The Interview. This isn't just any interview. This is your opportunity to showcase your expertise and position yourself as a trusted expert in a one-on-one video interview hosted by Robert Cardoza, host of the nationally syndicated show Robert Cardoza Live and powered by AHA Studios. What is it? A professionally recorded video for your use. Robert Cardoza interviews you on the set where he records his show. Professional interview showcases your expertise and value, shot in a state-of-the-art studio. And what's in it for you? Gain credibility as an expert, earn the trust of your target market, educate in a way that intrigues your audience, gain a powerful marketing tool that offers dozens of uses, website, video sharing sites, social media, email, DVDs, direct mail, lobby video, resumes, profile building, all that kind of stuff. Association with the nationally syndicated celebrity. That's right. And let's talk about AHA Studios. AHA is a strategic marketing firm that leverages the powerful and visual persuasion to help your business create powerful messages that connect with your target market. AHA ventures way beyond strategy, delivering the marketing collateral you need to start driving a new business through your doors. AHA has a full-service, in-house, state-of-the-art production studio to bring your messages to life using video. Discover how to make the interview work for you. Call 949-831-2222. That's 949-831-2222. AHA Image Studios Incorporated. Dr. Stephen Tidwell, Gentle Family Dentistry in a caring, personalized environment. Here at Dr. Tidwell's office, we are dedicated to helping you keep your teeth healthy. We are a state-of-the-art dental practice that still believes in traditional values, such as excellent customer service and individual attention. We have a special welcoming offer for you for just $39, a complete exam, personal consultation, professional cleaning, and all necessary x-rays. That's a $266 value for $39. Dr. Tidwell has 2 convenient locations and experienced staff to provide you with professional care and personal attention that you deserve. Call today. Don't delay a great smile another day. Call 909-944-7308. That's 909-944-7308 for Rancho Cucamonga or San Bernardino. Joel Saltzman is Dr. Wireless. He has turned his considerable expertise into consumer credit risk and wireless security into a highly specialized independent web-based consulting enterprise targeting consumer credit risk analysis and wireless transactional security and monitoring. He works as a wireless analyst, veteran independent agent, and consumer liaison for most wireless telecom carriers and equipment manufacturers. For more than 20 years, corporate and private clients and media audiences have counted on his unvarnished advice while weighing the technology, performance, and cost differences between Sprint, Nextel, AT&T, Verizon, and T-Mobile. Joel specializes in setting up mobile wireless hotspots to be used for disaster preparedness, business continuity, and mobile wireless merchant processing solutions. Call Dr. Wireless at 310-400-4900 or go to his webpage at drwireless.com. Again, call 310-400-4900 or his webpage at drwireless.com. You'll be glad you did. And now, back to our show.
And I am Robert Cardoza. You're listening to Robert Cardoza live on the street at the intersection of business and politics. We're at 4:23 p.m. Pacific time. Currently 77 degrees here in the heart of the Inland Empire in sunny Southern California. And if you're listening to us on our globally syndicated network and you're in Chicago, Illinois, well, it's 68 degrees and it is partly cloudy. If you're in Rome, Italy, 70 degrees and it is clear. And if you haven't been listening to our special guest, Sally Fry, you've missed a great show. Go back to our archives and listen to this whole thing. We're talking to our own Sean LaFave and his Geared for Wellness Corner and his special guest, Sally Fry. Sean, you want to say a couple of words or you want to just take a breath?
Oh, man, I tell you what, I've had plenty of time to breathe between you two talking. I know that that's horrible. I do this to you every week. How do you still like me?
I love you, buddy. I love you.
I love you too, man. So you know, I know Sally's got a story she wants, and if we got time, but I want to ask something really quick, if I can, and then if you can get your story in, maybe we need to bring you back. I don't know, but you know, I'm listening to all this, and I'm thinking of all the systemic, and you made a comment at the end, Robert. You said, you know, I don't know that there's really a fix for this, and I think, big picture, you know, when you look at it, the whole systemic, there isn't a fix for it. It's always going to be a problem. I don't think there's something that's going to go away. And I look at it with the same approach that I look at healthcare, is you just got to get to one person at a time, and you can affect one person's life. And Sally, I know I've talked to you about this before. I was in a relationship in my early 20s with a gal who was, you know, about the same age as me, and she had come from a family who the father was very abusive. Matter of fact, he was the police officer example that you used earlier, and was very abusive to his wife. I mean, horrible, great big mean guy, and so abusive to the mom. I don't think he was ever abusive to the kids, but he was definitely abusive to the moms. But the kids saw that. The daughter, now the girl that I ended up dating, went on to be in a couple of abusive relationships before I started dating her. Now I'm a nice guy, you know. I'm not gonna. I've never hit a woman. I can't imagine ever hitting a woman. I can't imagine, you know, even using these control tactics you're talking about. And so as our relationship developed and grew, in her mind, and it took me forever to figure out what was going on, she kept expecting it. And what she ended up doing was sabotaging the relationship. She would pick fights with me, and I'm like, why are you picking a fight with me? You know, one time we were messing around, and she accidentally elbowed me in the groin, and of course it hurt. And she broke down and started bawling. And I'm like, why are you crying? I'm the one that got hit, you know. But she was, you know, I'm like, what's that sympathetic pain? What are you doing over there? You just elbowed me, you know. But she was afraid of the backlash, and I had to, in my pain, I had to go over and hug her, and I had to you know, basically comfort her in my time of pain, because she was so afraid. And so, you know, there are women, and unfortunately this is a very young woman, 22 years old, 23, something like that, and she was so used to abusive relationships that she didn't know how to exist in a relationship that was not abusive. So how do you reach out to people like that? Not only the woman, but even the men in her life, whether in a relationship or even the men that know her, like, you know, brothers, fathers, you know, and not the father because he's the cause, but you know, whatever. How do you reach out to the people around her so that they can really so we can understand it? Because you know, it's hard to understand how someone would be afraid of being in a healthy relationship, because all you're comfortable with is abuse.
Sean, you're just lucky. Well, you're lucky it was just an elbow and not a pair of scissors.
Oh, man, I tell you what, you're right. I am lucky, and I'm still thankful to this day.
I would say you talked about and I mentioned this earlier, the effects on the children, and these are the role models, and we learn what it means to be a man and what it means to be a woman primarily from our parents. And we look to them and we see, and what she saw was that this is just what you do. You take it, and you stay. Whether you stay for the children, you stay for whatever. But you stay, and you deserve it somehow. And you know, my guess was whether or not the father was physically abusive to the children, probably verbally abusive.
Sure.
And so, you know, and that honestly, if you talk to anybody that's a survivor of child abuse, they will tell you, I will take a beating before I will take the name calling, because that had more lasting impression than even when they laid their hands on me.
Wow.
The bruises.
I can't remember who it was, but I heard
you know how
this.
sad that is to hear somebody say that. That has got to be one of the saddest things I have ever heard.
Mm-hmm. And it is. And I can't remember who it was that told me this. They said, if you want to control your children better than anybody else, all you have to do is have them learn that you can control them by taking love away from them. Because when you take a love away from a child, they'll do anything they can. He goes, you will never mess your child up more than taking love away. But that's the easiest way to control a child. Beatings, toys, none of that stuff. Love. Yep. And the withdrawal of love is the easiest way to control a child, but it's also the easiest way to screw a child up for life. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So you had a story. What do we got, Robert? About 7 to 8 minutes left?
I haven't got a clue. I haven't been paying attention. Let's see here. You got 9 minutes. You have 9 minutes.
9 minutes. You can tell a story in 9 minutes. Go for it. So if you got a story you want to tell. It's a powerful story, Robert. I want to tell you. I'm going to warn you. There's supposedly not a happy ending at the end of this, but I think it's going to illustrate well what we've been talking about.
Okay.
Right. And you actually gave me a really good segue. So this is Crystal's story. This is a true story. And I'm going to read so I don't miss any of the details. But Crystal and David were married on August 3rd, 1991. On their wedding day, David told Crystal that her ring was the last piece of jewelry she'd ever get from him. He kept that promise throughout their marriage, refusing to even buy her a $6 pair of earrings from the drugstore. David required Crystal to turn over her paycheck to him. He gave her a $25 allowance every 2 weeks for her personal spending. In 1997, after Crystal had 2 children, she stayed at home to care for them. David gave her a $100 allowance every 2 weeks for expenses for the children and herself, including gas, food, clothes, and incidentals. If Crystal ever spent over the $100 allowance, she had to show the receipts to David and explain why she made the purchase. David was known as a meticulous dresser with a substantial wardrobe of new clothes. Crystal, on the other hand, wore clothes that were old and faded and showed signs of having lots of repairs. Crystal saved the change from her allowance. Every few weeks, she would have enough money to take her sister to lunch and buy a sub for her from a local sandwich shop. Crystal viewed her ability to do this as a great accomplishment and something that she could feel proud of. David's salary was $140,000 per year, so finances were not an issue for this family. While Crystal was saving coins from her biweekly allowance, David managed to build up over $70,000 in a savings account. David required Crystal to weigh herself every day in front of him. He had to be present when Crystal used the bathroom. He also had to be present whenever Crystal went to the doctor, including her gynecological exams. David monitored the mileage on Crystal's car and restricted her use of the phone. Over a period of 5 years, David repeatedly told his coworkers that Crystal was crazy and unstable. One of Crystal's biggest concerns was that David would take away the children if she left him. She felt trapped because of the lies he was spreading about her mental stability. On several occasions, Dave tried to coerce Crystal into having group sex. At a birthday party for one of his coworkers, David offered Crystal as a present. He wanted her to have sex with the man who was celebrating his birthday while he watched. In 2002, on at least 4 occasions, David put his hands around Crystal's throat and strangled her. After each incident, he sent flowers to her the next day, along with a card signed, "Your Secret Admirer." Then he accused Crystal of having an affair. When Crystal mentioned divorce to David, he told her, "You will never leave me. No woman will ever leave me." David often talked about his money and pension, and he would tell Crystal, "I'll kill you before you see any of my deferred comp." In February of 2003, David told Crystal to go into the walk-in closet in their bedroom because he wanted to show her something. He reached up on the shelf, pulled down a handgun, and pointed the barrel of the gun to Crystal's face. "Accidents happen," he told her. David made repeated references to Bible verses condemning divorce. He would often say to Crystal, "Remember the wedding vows," as a reminder of her about the line, "Until death do us part." Crystal eventually took the children and moved into her parents' house. David gave Crystal's phone number to his friends and coworkers and asked them to repeatedly call her and tell her that David is such a great guy. Crystal received so many harassing phone calls, she eventually had to make her number change her number. David withdrew thousands of dollars from their bank account and changed the conditions for future withdrawals to require 2 signatures. Crystal no longer had access to their money. On February 24th, 2003, Crystal filed for divorce, and she began telling her long-held secrets of David's abuse. David continued to constantly call her to ask where she was, what she was doing, whom she was with. Crystal feared David was following her. On her 35th birthday, David called Crystal 4 times in under 45 minutes. David began referring to her in the past tense and would say to Crystal, "You were the mother of those children." Crystal would reply, "I am the mother of those children." David's response was, "You are not listening to me. You were the mother of those children." David, who was out of town at a conference, also told Crystal he had a really big birthday gift for her, but she would have to wait until he got home because he said, "I have to give it to you in person." 2 days later, Crystal was at a shopping mall running some errands. David pulled into the parking lot and parked 5 spaces away from her. Their children, ages 5 and 8, were in the backseat of David's car. Crystal was walking toward a drugstore, talking to her mother on her cell phone. Crystal told her mother, "I think I see David." David told the children he was going to talk to their mother and for them to wait in the car. Crystal saw David, retreated to her car, and opened the driver's side door. David slid between Crystal and the open door, preventing her from getting into the car. Witnesses heard David and Crystal talking with raised voices. David pulled his gun from a holster. Crystal pleaded with David not to shoot her. David shot Crystal in the head. He watched her fall to the asphalt, raised the gun to his right temple, and pulled the trigger again. A woman ran to the children and witness called 911. David died about 3 hours later. Crystal died a week later. Ask me what the profession of David was.
police officer?
He was the chief of police of the Tacoma, Washington Police Department.
Jeez.
So who was she supposed to call?
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, that's just sad. That leaves me speechless. That's just sad.
Yeah, it's hard to follow it up with something to say that's profound, because it tells everything. And you know, it's funny that gal that I was telling you that I dated, her. I mean, it's very the same thing. You know, it was you know, her mom was married to a police officer, and it is. I think it brings home the you know, the fact that it dispels that myth that, you know, it's just the average, common, maybe poor person, uneducated person. Mm-hmm. This happens in every level of society. I was when I was in college, I don't know if you knew this, Robert, I was a 911 operator for a while. And we had this switchboard back before they had the enhanced 911, before all the caller ID and everything. And so the switchboard, when certain buttons would light up, you knew what area of town you were in. And certain times of the day, you know, it was different things. And, you know, your domestic violence, a lot of it was happening at night, late at night, either like in the evening or maybe later on after people have been drinking. And during one of these times where it was kind of we'd see a lot more domestic violence stuff, a line lit up in an area of town where it doesn't light up in that part of town. And I actually answered the call. And this woman said, my husband just beat me, but then she said, you know what, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have called. And I said, well, you called. And we had to actually track her address down. We had to trace it through Maubelle or whatever it was. And make a long story short, she did not want to stay in line with me. I told her, I said, you know what, I did literally all the things that us normal guys would say. You know, you don't need to live like this. You know, she's like, I'm going to lose my house. I'm going to lose my car. She's saying all the things that Sally was saying. I'm going to lose all this stuff. And I said, you seem like a nice person. I don't know you, but talking to you on the phone, you seem like a wonderful person. And, you know, you can get another car. You can get another house. You don't need to live like this. You don't deserve to live like this just to have nice stuff. And well, anyway, it turned out to be a big deal. I don't know. I never found out who the guy was, but he was a very prominent person in the town. That's all I found out. Before the night was over, there was, I think, like 8 cop cars there, including the chief of police was one of the people that actually came out on the scene. And they don't send chief of police out for a normal domestic violence situation. No. So whoever this guy was, he was very prominent.
So why is it that when domestic violence is reported, even if it's reported by a neighbor about what's going on, that the police don't go and investigate, have them ticket them, have them pay a fine, have them go before the judge and be ordered for counseling just to be safe? Why can't that be done?
Cost?
Well, no. The fine
money.
No, the fine covers the cost.
If they pay the fine.
Yeah, the fine covered. Well, they pay the fine or they go to jail. Anyway, unfortunately, as I had said before, I just don't think there's a solution to this. But Sally, no. I could talk to you for days and days and days. And I think that as logical as you are and as informative as you are, the sad part of this show today is it doesn't look like there's going to be a solution to this horrible, horrible problem.
Yeah, I think the only thing is to really talk to our children, talk to our youth. We got to start them young and show them what healthy looks like.
Yeah. Well, listen, we've got to run away. We're over. Sean, I look forward to talking to you on Thursday. Sally, thank you so very much for coming on the show today. It's been really enlightening.
My pleasure.
And the rest of you folks.
Sally, thanks. Robert, thanks. Had a great time, guys. It was good.
And the rest of you folks, do not go away. When we come back, we'll be talking about the birthdays for the day, the secret daily teaching for your life, the Harvard business tip of the day, and interesting but useless facts. Boy, what a show. We'll be right back.
If you want to increase your client base and sales, then consider this, the Relationship Building Network at RBN. Given the current economic conditions and challenges, we all need to work smarter, make smarter decisions, invest our hard-earned dollars where it'll yield the best return for our investment. Many business professionals claim that the most effective networking group in Orange County is RBN. No other networking group or organization can offer what RBN offers. Make every year your best year. Join RBN and start reaping the benefits today. You know, nearly 3,000 businesses have joined RBN and experienced those benefits. Why join RBN? It's one group. It's one membership. It's no renewals. It's all through Orange County. RBN is a freestyle networking group. No mandatory attendance, no restrictions, no rules, and no penalties. Call them at 949-830-5776 or go to their website at rbninfo.com. That's 949-830-5776. If you've ever dreamed of having your own business to make your life secure, you know Water's Edge Wineries might be just the ticket. In 2004, their founder, Ken Lineberger, created the first winery franchise in California. It was a new concept with all of the functionality of a traditional winery, but without the vineyards. They purchase high-quality grape must from one of the largest winemaking companies in the world. Then they craft each wine carefully and bottle it right at their location. The winery was built to satisfy consumer demand for wine by the bottle and by the glass, but still kept the element of allowing customers to bottle their own custom vintage. Now, they're opening urban wineries across the United States under the brand Water's Edge Wineries. If you've ever dreamed of owning your own winery, it may be in reach right now through Water's Edge Wineries. Just give them a call at 909-468-9463, extension 700. That's Water's Edge Wineries, 909-468-9463. Have you ever found yourself caught between a rock and a hard place? The law offices of Blomberg, Benson, and Garrett might be just the answer for you. The attorneys of Blomberg, Benson, and Garrett have been serving the Inland Empire since 1989. They're dedicated to the aggressive litigation of civil, criminal, and real estate matters. Over the years, they have recovered tens of millions of dollars for their clients. The firm's practice specializes in litigation of personal injury, accident, slip and fall, real estate, and criminal law cases. The firm provides clients with the care, accuracy, and dedication of experienced attorneys. Blomberg, Benson, and Garrett is located at 10300 4th Street, Suite 150 in Rancho Cucamonga, California. They've been providing the Inland Empire residents with outstanding legal services for over 25 years. They look forward to providing you with aggressive legal representation. Call them at 909-945-5000, where you can talk to a person, not a machine. That's 909-945-5000, the law offices of Blomberg, Benson, and Garrett. And now let's get back to our show where we talk about politics, money, and you.
And I am Robert Cardoza. You're listening to Robert Cardoza live on the street at the intersection of business and politics. We're at 4:42 p.m. Pacific time. Currently 77 degrees here in the heart of the Inland Empire in sunny Southern California. It's on its way down to 59 degrees. And if you're listening to us on our globally syndicated network and you're in London, England, well, it's 50 degrees and it's clear. And if you're in Vienna, Austria, it's 46 degrees and it's overcast. And yet if you're just tuning in now, you have missed one heck of an hour. We've been on the air with Sean Lefebvre in his Geared for Wellness Corner and his special guest, Sally Fry. We've been talking about domestic abuse, and it's what an enlightening hour that was. If you didn't get a chance to listen to it, please go to our archives or get our app, and you can listen to that show anytime you want. This is one of the shows that you just don't want to miss. Well, it is time for our Harvard Business Tip of the day, and the management tip today is protect your schedule from interruptions. You know, if your job is to produce knowledge, you're a software developer, an engineer, an architect, a writer, a researcher, for example, you need large chunks of uninterrupted time to solve complex problems and come up with new solutions. This means that having a meeting at 9 a.m. and another one at 1 p.m. can destroy your entire day. So protect your time by putting appointments on your calendar to work on important deliverables. Include the name of what you're working on so that your colleagues know that what you're prioritizing. And consider aligning those appointments with your natural biorhythm. For example, if you're a night owl, you might make an appointment from 8 p.m. to 2 a.m. several times a week and agree with your manager to come in late the following days. When your head's down on work, make clear that you don't want to be interrupted. Turn off Wi-Fi, set your instant message status to unavailable, and perhaps even post a sign on your office door that says, "Solving big business problems, do not disturb." You know what? That's exactly what you've got to do sometimes to be productive and to get things done. Well, it's time for our secret daily teaching for your life. And, this is all about a positive mental attitude. You really do decide what your life is going to be like. You decide if you're going to be rich or poor, or or if you're going to be sad or happy, if you're going to be successful or a failure. You decide it every morning when you wake up and you go into the bathroom, you look in the mirror and you say, wow, I'm going to have a fantastic day today. I'm going to be profitable. I'm going to be productive, and I'm going to make everybody around me happy. That's what you decide. So you know what? The lesson for today is you can affirm and proclaim this is a magnificent universe. The universe is bringing all good things to me. The universe is conspiring for me in all things. The universe is supporting me in everything that I do. The universe meets all my needs immediately. Know that this is a friendly universe. You decide what your life is going to be like. Nobody else does. It's all in your control, just the way it is. Well, you know what today is? Sure you do. Today is Tuesday. It's October the 18th, and it is somebody's birthday. Yes, sir. And we've got some terrific birthdays for today. So you know what? I might as well not talk about them. I might as well just go ahead and give them to you. And let's start off with this guy. Born in 1960, an actor known as the Muscles from Brussels. He and Mike Sachs, I guess. Anyway, happy birthday to Jean-Claude Van Damme. And a fellow that was born in 1961, a trumpeter and composer. He's among the most prominent jazz musicians of the modern era. Happy birthday, Wynton Marsalis. And then finally, born in 1987, an actor first known to young audiences after his roles in the High School Musical. Happy birthday, Zac Efron. Well, you know what? You ever wonder about what was going on today in history? Well, you don't have to wonder anymore, because I'm about to tell you. On October the 18th, 1648, Boston shoemakers formed the very first U.S. labor organization. And in 1851, Herman Melville's Moby Dick is first published as The Whale by Richard Bentley of London. And in 1925, the Grand Ole Opry opens in Nashville, Tennessee. And then finally, in 1929, women are considered persons under Canadian law. Isn't that something? Well, you know what? Our quote for today comes from Arlo Guthrie, and he says, you can't have a light without a dark to stick it in. No, I hadn't heard that before. Sometimes things are so obvious you forget about them, right? Anyway, let's talk about those interesting but useless facts. We've got a couple of minutes here that we can get this thing done in. Did you know that the King James Version of the Bible has 50 authors, 66 books, 1,189 chapters, and 21,173 verses? Go figure. Learn them all by heart if you want. Or just look them up in the book. How about this? Did you know that hippopotamuses, or is that hippopotami? No, that's hippopotamuses, have skin 3.8 centimeters. That's 1.5 inches thick. Yeah, I believe that. Didn't know it, but I believe it. How about this? Today's cattle are descendant from two species, wild aurochs, fierce and agile herd animals that populated. Go figure. And did you know that your skin is your body's largest organ? That, my folks, is an absolute fact. Know it for sure. Now, do not go away, because when we come back, we're going to do our tribute to the late, great Paul Harvey and the rest of the story. Today's story is Dear Abby, but it's not what you think. Yeah, I'll be telling you all about it right after these brief messages. Do not go away.
Isn't it time to shine the spotlight on your expertise? The Interview, starring you. Here's your chance to capture 5 minutes of fame with The Interview. This isn't just any interview. This is your opportunity to showcase your expertise and position yourself as a trusted expert in a one-on-one video interview hosted by Robert Cardoza, host of the nationally syndicated show Robert Cardoza Live and powered by AHA Studios. What is it? A professionally recorded video for your use. Robert Cardoza interviews you on the set where he records his show. Professional interview showcases your expertise and value, shot in a state-of-the-art studio. And what's in it for you? Gain credibility as an expert, earn the trust of your target market, educate in a way that intrigues your audience, gain a powerful marketing tool that offers dozens of uses, website, video sharing sites, social media, email, DVDs, direct mail, lobby video, resumes, profile building, all that kind of stuff. Association with the nationally syndicated celebrity. That's right. And let's talk about AHA Studios. AHA is a strategic marketing firm that leverages the powerful and visual persuasion to help your business create powerful messages that connect with your target market. AHA ventures way beyond strategy, delivering the marketing collateral you need to start driving a new business through your doors. AHA has a full-service, in-house, state-of-the-art production studio to bring your messages to life using video. Discover how to make the interview work for you. Call 949-831-2222. That's 949-831-2222. AHA Image Studios Incorporated. Dr. Stephen Tidwell, Gentle Family Dentistry in a caring, personalized environment. Here at Dr. Tidwell's office, we are dedicated to helping you keep your teeth healthy. We are a state-of-the-art dental practice that still believes in traditional values, such as excellent customer service and individual attention. We have a special welcoming offer for you for just $39, a complete exam, personal consultation, professional cleaning, and all necessary x-rays. That's a $266 value for $39. Dr. Tidwell has 2 convenient locations and experienced staff to provide you with professional care and personal attention that you deserve. Call today. Don't delay. A great smile another day. Call 909-944-7308. That's 909-944-7308 for Rancho Cucamonga or San Bernardino. Joel Saltzman is Dr. Wireless. He has turned his considerable expertise into consumer credit risk and wireless security into a highly specialized independent web-based consulting enterprise targeting consumer credit risk analysis and wireless transactional security and monitoring. He works as a wireless analyst, veteran independent agent, and consumer liaison for most wireless telecom carriers and equipment manufacturers. For more than 20 years, corporate and private clients and media audiences have counted on his unvarnished advice while weighing the technology, performance, and cost differences between Sprint, Nextel, AT&T, Verizon, and T-Mobile. Joel specializes in setting up mobile wireless hotspots to be used for disaster preparedness, business continuity, and mobile wireless merchant processing solutions. Call Dr. Wireless at 310-400-4900 or go to his webpage at drwireless.com. Again, call 310-400-4900 or his webpage at drwireless.com. You'll be glad you did. And now, back to our show.
And I am Robert Cardoza. You're listening to Robert Cardoza live on the street at the intersection of business and politics. We're at 4:52 p.m. Pacific time. Yeah, still 77 degrees. That didn't even change. It's still even keep talking about it. But you know what? If you are listening to us on our globally syndicated network and you're in Madrid, Spain, it's 64 degrees and mostly cloudy. Tokyo, Japan, well, 73 and mostly cloudy. In Sydney, Australia, 66 and clear. But you know what? It's time for us to do our tribute to the late, great Paul Harvey. And you know what? This tribute has really been popular. It's a tribute that we do every day to Paul Harvey and the rest of the story. The biggest and best voice in America reveals the startling heartbeats behind the headlines. And today's story is Dear Abby. You know what? Dear Abby, and I never thought I'd be writing to you. Here all these years, you have been advising others, counseling others, cheering up the rest of us. Now, apparently, it's you who need cheering up. All right, I'll try to help you with your problem. That letter from you, dated November the 22nd, sounded dreadful. What have you ever done that was worthwhile, you ask? Indeed. If you'll pardon my saying so, you sound like one of those people always writing to you for encouragement when their problems are so comparatively trivial that they don't even deserve to be reprinted. But I know how it is. Sometimes we get so close to our own personal problems that it takes an outsider to help us see over the top of them. And that is what motivated this letter from me to you. What have you done that you can look back upon with pride and pleasure? My goodness, Abby, I won't even mention your admiring and your adoring public. How about your family? For anything which went wrong, there you certainly cannot blame yourself. I remember those years when your lawyer husband was away so much when you had to bring up the youngsters almost alone. And yet, you continued your writing. Isn't that accomplishment a source of pride and pleasure? We who have admired the way that you reply to the letters of others, always with such good sense, always so encouraging, how ironic that one of us now should be seeking to console you. But your November 22nd letter reflects on what you call your many follies and errors of judgment. Surely, dear Abby, you who have been so understanding of others are now being much too rough on yourself. Why? I remember reading about your experiences in London when you encountered considerable discourtesy and yet responded with such grace. I remember thinking that Abby is capable of rising above any circumstance. We read with envy about your adventures in Paris and in Washington, hobnobbing with all those important people. Abby, you are so admired by everyone, just everyone. That is why it is so difficult for an admirer to realize that you are really serious in that last letter when you wrote, "What have I done that I can look back upon with pleasure?" Abby, I hesitate to mention this, but didn't you have a birthday recently? November the 11th, wasn't it? That'll do it sometimes. Birthdays and sometimes housewifely frustration of facing the same chores for as far ahead as you can see. However, liberated women are becoming, and certainly you, more than most, will be a long time, if ever, before women really catch up. The more capable a woman is, the more she resents that. Also, it occurs to me that you, being the daughter of a clergyman, might tend to demand too much of yourself. Abby, I'm afraid I've not succeeded very well in what I set out to do to encourage you. But try to believe me that anybody looking at your exciting and fruitful life and then reading that last letter from you, and I have a copy of it right here in front of me in your handwriting, I mean, dear Abby, to sum up such a lifetime as yours and to ask as you do the forgiveness of God for not having accomplished more, shame on you. Shame on you, Abigail Smith Adams. Do you count it as nothing that you were the wife of a president of the United States and the mother of another one? No other woman in history can make that statement. And now you know the rest of the story. Well, folks, don't go too far, because on my next show tomorrow, we'll have Joel Saltzman here, Dr. Wireless. We'll be talking about new wireless technology news, and I'm going to contribute our tribute to the late, great Paul Harvey and the rest of the story. Tomorrow's story is going to be the launching of the Little Red Wagon. And, you know, I want you to tell all your friends about our show here on the RLC Broadcast Network. Get our app. It's absolutely free. Just go to your app store and search Robert Cardoza Live. Download it. It's free. If we're on live, you can listen to us live. Otherwise, listen to any of our archives. And one you can start with is the one for today, where we had our special guest, Sally Fry, talking about domestic violence. Wow. Anyway, don't forget to tell all your friends about our show. You'll be glad you did. They'll be glad you did, and I most certainly will be glad you did.
That's our show for today. Beginning today, treat everyone you meet as if they were going to be dead by midnight. Extend them all the care, kindness, and understanding that you can muster. Your life will never be the same again. So many of our dreams at first seem impossible, then they seem improbable, and then when we summon the will, they soon become inevitable. You know, the real secret of happiness is to make others believe that they're the cause of it. Robert Cardoza Live is brought to you by blogtalkradio.com every Monday through Friday from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. Pacific Time. Now, go out and make it a great day. Your host has been Robert Cardoza, the technical advisor, Matchstick Digital, and your executive producer, also Robert Cardoza.